So the full spoilers for chapter 24 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is finally here, and let's just say that Kawaki might be stronger than we thought he was, and so is Jura. So the person on the cover for this month is Kawaki, and the title is, well, Kawaki, Uzumaki Kawaki. And it says here that the chapter starts with Kawaki and Boruto flashback atop the Okage heads. And this of course is referring to what happened at the end of chapter 15, I believe, when Boruto explained to Kawaki that he was limited and gave him information about Momoshiki, so on and so forth. It says that Boruto also gave Kawaki one of his FTG symbols, but doesn't expound on what exactly he told him. I will say that the guy who said this on a prior video, that Boruto simply told Kawaki something in that moment off screen, you were indeed correct, because that is exactly what happened. Then says that we see the second sneak peek where Kawaki absorbs the Bijudama fired by Jura, and that was the one that was released today, so we haven't covered that as yet. This one pretty much shows Jura trying to attack Kawaki using a Biju bomb, similar to what he did to Boruto, but of course Kawaki has access to his Karma Seal, so he's able to easily absorb it, as opposed to dodging it, which is what he did in the prior chapter. But anyways, naturally the Karma Seal is a good counter to chakra based techniques. Who would have thought? By the way, shoutouts to Goruto Shiki on Boruto Twitter. He colored this page and it just looks awesome. I don't know, man, I just love the way it's colored here. Now then says that Jura appears behind Kawaki, tries to attack him with his middle claw finger, but Kawaki dodges using his shrinking ability. By the way, just so you know, I have seen the scans for the chapter, and one thing I'm not really a fan of is the fact that Ikimoto just doesn't draw Kawaki using the dojutsu, because in the scene where he does shrink and even after he pops back up, he doesn't have the dojutsu active, and to my knowledge this is the ability of the dojutsu, so I'm not sure why in some cases he uses it and in other cases he doesn't need the dojutsu. That is very interesting to me. Maybe it's an evolution of the power itself and he doesn't actually need it. So I will say that Jigen didn't need the dojutsu, but he actually had the Shiki inside his head, so it's kind of a bit different. So anyways, let's get back to the spoilers. It then says Kawaki summons 4 black cubes to crush Jura, but he snipes one, partially destroying it. Boruto gets away from it as well because he's in the vicinity. It then says none of the 4 cubes landed on Jura, because of course, you know, Jura is pretty fast. It then says that Kawaki once again appears behind Jura and uses his big hand, which is referring to his scientific ninja tool, to send Jura flying away, which means he punched him. It then says, but he gets on his feet fast and tries to attack Kawaki with his claw marked middle finger, but he gets blocked by his bow staff. So pretty much Kawaki's actually keeping up with Jura this entire fight. At some point it seems like they're relative, but Kawaki just has the upper hand most of the time. And I will say it's a similar situation to Boruto, where Kawaki is able to maneuver around Jura based on the ability that he's using, which is Tsukinai Kona, similar to how Boruto was able to do it using FTG. But you also have instances where they're keeping up with Jura using their actual movement speed, which Kawaki does in this chapter as well, which I find very interesting. But put a pause on that because this might not be what it seems. It then says Kawaki's bow staff versus Jura's claw mark finger happens, and then we see the first sneak peek, which is where Kawaki swipes away his hand and then tries to stab him using the bow staff. We already covered that, so we're not going to go into it again. What's interesting is that it then says that Kawaki seems to be able to amp his bow staff with Karma's explosive power, and it blew off part of Jura's waist, which once again implies, or I mean it literally shows, that Kawaki has the attack potency to actually damage Jura significantly, and this is very important to keep in mind. It also notes that we see Boruto's karma, which is visible, but he hasn't lost control, so he's kind of withholding Momoshiki there, which is pretty cool. It also then says that Kawaki sent Jura flying into one of the rock formations and then approaches him. We see Amado and Sumire looking through Kawaki's eyes, and Jura takes out his book and reads it. And when I saw this in the spoiler, the first thing that came to mind was when Sasuke fought Killer Bee, and while he's doing all that crazy stuff, Killer Bee just pulled out his book and started to write down lyrics. I feel like this is a reference to that, even though, you know, Killer Bee wasn't a villain. It's kind of a callback in that sense, I think, but maybe not. I could be wrong, okay? The next one says Jura is reading from the book and talking. Sumire is watching and is surprised, probably because Jura is not serious. LOL. So it appears that Jura isn't taking the battle seriously, and the characters can sense that based on how he's operating in the fight itself. Now it then says that Jura gets protected by the Mokuton roots from the divine tree, and it touches Jura and heals him. Now it doesn't say this in the spoiler release right here, but in the actual Raws, it shows that Kawaki attacks Jura using the big explosion attack that he used versus Code, but it seems like Jura was able to tank the attack at point blank range by just summoning the divine tree roots. And I do wonder what kind of roots he's using to do this, because again, it also healed him, so it seems like it's the same roots from the 10 Tails dimension, but I'm not sure why it would be in this dimension, unless what we thought was the 10 Tails dimension wasn't the 10 Tails dimension, but somewhere on this planet, maybe in the inner core of the earth or something. Who knows? It's very, very interesting. But I also find it very weird that the Shinju can't heal by themselves. They need to summon the divine tree to do that, after Jura spent the entire time versus Himawari gloating about how the Shinjus have superior healing. But it doesn't seem that way when they have to summon something else to heal them. You know, they can't just heal significant damage by themselves. So it's a bit interesting there. And at first I thought maybe this just doesn't apply to the side Shinju, but it should apply to Jura since he's the main Shinju, but apparently doesn't apply to him either. He still needs the roots to heal as well, so yeah, I guess we'll find out soon enough. So it then says that Jura is like new again. He's sitting atop a throne of Mokuton roots, looking down and talking to Kawaki. Kawaki seems to get pissed and tries to attack him with a big hand in base. And just to give you guys a brief snippet of what's actually said in the chapter, because I don't want to spoil the entire chapter for you guys. So pretty much the conversation in the latter half goes with Jura saying Uzumaki Kawaki, as expected, his combat ability now is far beyond what it used to be. How did he gain that power in such a short time? No, it's not just you. Uzumaki Himawari, she suddenly awakened right before my eyes and showed strength like a completely different person. He then says, looking back on it now, it was as if Inojin's sacrifice triggered it. And then there's Sarada Uchiha. She too suddenly awakened her power and effortlessly took down one of my kin. Then we have Sumari in the background saying, Sarada did that? That's crazy. He then goes on to say both cases are extraordinary, something that can't be explained by normal means. This is just my personal view, but I can't help but feel there's a common thread linking all of this. He then says, at this moment, my hottest research topic is what you'd call love, the unique uncertainty that you humans possess. It is, of course, an undeniable fact that it can be a fatal flaw, but at the same time, it could also be the factor that enables unparalleled evolution. Kawaki, what do you think? Give me your honest opinion. So pretty much he's kind of coming to the conclusion, you know, we said he would at some point in the story that yes, love can be a flaw, but it also can be a strength. And this, of course, explains why he looked at Sarada and then flew away, because he was pondering about this exact thing. You know, the love that enables evolution and someone gaining the power to protect someone they care about. So yes, love can be a weakness, but it can also be a strength, you know, typical stuff. But yeah, Kawaki isn't really, you know, into that stuff, so he just calls him an obnoxious pest and tries to blow him up. Now this part is important because he goes on to say this. Never thought you'd rush to Boruto's rescue. As far as I know, there's only one thing in this world you want to protect. It should be Uzumaki Naruto and no one else. I once went to visit him in the leaf, but honestly, I thought he might already be dead. But at this moment, looking into your unwavering eyes, I knew for sure he's alive. Uzumaki Naruto is. And of course, Kawaki kind of winces, you know, every time, you know, it comes to Naruto. So Jura kind of figures out that his insinuation was correct, and he says, hit the mark, didn't I? You're very easy to read. I'm bad at lying just like you. I went ahead and voiced the shocking truth, knowing it would provoke you. I want to devour him, Uzumaki Naruto, that is. I heard he connected with many of the tail beasts. I believe love was at the core of that too. I can't help but feel that way. What is love? If I devour him, maybe I'll understand it a little better. And then Kawaki screams, you know, you bastard, and tries to attack him. And that's where Boruto comes in. Now the reason why I say this is important because it actually confirms, which I kind of tried to reaffirm, that Jura's actual target is Naruto, as he stated in chapter 5. Some people believe that it was actually Kurama or it was Himawari, but no, the person he's really interested in is Naruto. And what I said about it stemming from Naruto's connection to the Prior Tail Beast appears to also be the case as well. So he pretty much tried to get Himawari because he was confused about why she had the Nine Tails when Naruto should have had the Nine Tails. Himawari isn't really his target per se. So not really a massive spoiler, but just to inform you guys of what really transpired in the chapter, I thought it was a good idea to mention it. Now Boruto then appeared and said, "Sorry to keep you waiting, Kawaki. We're good to go now. Have locked on to the symbol." And Jura then says, the flying Raijina. It's a shame, but it can't be helped. Looks like this is as far as we go this time. Kawaki then said, "Hold on a second. Hey, Jura, listen up real close. I don't care about love or any of that crap, but still, your instincts for targeting the 7th, that gut instinct of yours, I'll give you credit for it. But don't get the wrong idea. One day I'll definitely kill you, without fail." I'm not sure if this was kind of mistranslated a bit because it's kind of wonky, but I think you guys get the general idea of what he's trying to say, okay? Now Jura then says, interesting. I appreciate the honesty. Kawaki then says, "I'm done here, let's go." Jura then replies saying, "Kawaki, I'm glad we got to talk. Let's meet again." And Kawaki then turns around and shows Jura his middle finger before teleporting away with Boruto. Now the end portion of the chapter is kind of funny because nothing serious happens. It's actually like a gag section, really like a gag moment. So pretty much you have the guys standing over the symbol Boruto uses to teleport, and they're basically saying that we shouldn't have it on us because it can cause some issues when they're teleporting. But of course Konohamaru is, not very bright, so he bends over on top of it, and then because Boruto then uses FTG, teleports, and Kawaki literally lands on top of Konohamaru's face and stomps on him. Boruto then says, "Alright, we're flying straight to Konoha," and then we switch over to Ada having a conversation with Koji, and they're pretty much discussing the changes in the future and all that lovely stuff. You guys will see that when the chapter comes out. Koji also notes that Mamushi is on the move now and he's coming after Ada. We then switch over to the 10 Tails dimension, and Hidari is asking Jura if he's sick or something because he has a weird look on his face, but Jura then tells him it's the opposite. "Hidari, listen to this. Kawaki actually praised me." And I find this very, very interesting. Like, why would he care if Kawaki praised him or not? I do wonder if this is some of Ishiki's essence leaking out, because again, Ishiki was like a father figure to Kawaki for multiple years, and I do wonder if that's what's happening here. But anyways, Hidari then mentioned a word that he learned about recently, and Jura asked him what it is, and he says, "Disgusting as hell," which I guess the word is disgusting. And then the side text says he was just happy to be praised. Then Hidari had to ruin it with one of his freshly learned words. And that's where the chapter ends, with Jura having a funny look on his face. So yeah, the end of the chapter was pretty funny. It was pretty lighthearted, and the overall chapter was pretty good in my opinion. If you guys want to see the scans, I will have them on Discord. I'm obviously not going to post them in the video because of copyright, so bear with me, okay? But if you guys like the video, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe. If you guys want to see more videos about Boruto, let me know in the comments and I'll make them. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Peace.